This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Thursday, August 11th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the Wall Street Journal, U.S. inflation eased slightly to 8.5% in July. Much anticipated inflation data were released by the U.S. Labor Department yesterday morning, and they showed even better than anticipated inflation numbers that are thought to be partially the consequence of declining fuel prices, and which might even be an indication of peaking inflation rates. Inflation is still very high, at around 8.5% year over year in July, and we're aiming for about 2% for context. But that's down from 9.1% in June. CPI was flat on a monthly basis, which is down from a monthly increase of 1.3% the previous month, and core CPI, which excludes prices on things like food and energy, which can be volatile and thus are not always the best indication of what inflation is doing when separated from temporary issues of the moment, was down 0.3% from the previous month, compared to an increase of 0.7% in June. All of this is being seen as a pretty good thing, as it may suggest the worst inflation rate increases are behind us, and the stock market rallied in response to that potentiality, though many economists are saying things could tip back in the opposite direction, and we could still see more small bumps in the coming months, even if we have made it past the apex of this rate increase wave. From BBC News, blasts rock Russian airbase in annexed Crimea. A series of explosions at a Russian airbase in occupied Crimea, which was taken from Ukraine in 2014, has destroyed 9 Russian military planes and killed at least 1 person. The former, according to an anonymous Ukrainian official, the latter, according to the head of the local government. This is the first attack of this scale against the Russians occupying Crimea since the beginning of Russia's invasion in February. Elsewhere in Ukraine, Russian shelling has reportedly killed at least 13 people in the central Dnipropetrovsk region, and foreign ministers from the G7 group of nations have said that Russia must leave the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant they've occupied in Ukraine, as the facility is apparently being used in part as a military base for the Russians, which makes damage to the facility a real possibility. The Russians also, reportedly, plan to disconnect the plant from the Ukrainian power grid and connect it to the Russian power grid, which is a potentially dangerous maneuver that would leave large portions of Ukraine without electricity. And from Al Jazeera, Turkey resumes gas exploration in the eastern Mediterranean. A Turkish ship has left port to search for gas in the eastern Mediterranean nearly 2 years after the last period of oil exploration by the Turkish government, in the midst of heightened tensions with regional neighbors, including Cyprus and Greece. Although it's not cheap or easy to conduct oil exploration or exploitation in the Mediterranean, energy shortages stemming from Russia's invasion of Ukraine have made these sorts of strategic resources increasingly precious. And there have been predictions that oil prices could skyrocket to hundreds of dollars a barrel if Russia ever decided to pull significant portions of its oil supply from the market, which means in the next few years oil could become vastly more valuable monetarily, but also the key to establishing the best relationships, in addition to allowing leaders to maintain regional stability during a period of potentially destabilizing energy shortages. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.